hold this shield straight. If I held it any closer to my body, I'm just getting hit.
There it goes.
So yeah, and as you've noticed, Elena is not the largest person, but she cut through about a 1/4 inch of wood and the entire handle as well.
Yeah.
Which is pretty solid. Can't break that with my hand, and he carved that one himself. So the axe has a lot of power. It doesn't necessarily need the length. The length is really just to deliver more power. The spears are a little bit longer. They're used more for control, and Nick is going to demonstrate that. Pick it up. But the axe itself, the axe itself is used really just for hitting hard. It's not a great defensive weapon. It needs more space to move around, which is where it has problems. The spear, you don't need as much space. The length of the spear gives it a lot of control on the battlefield. Getting close is a problem. If he makes a mistake, I can hit him. I can come in swinging, but he's just going to stab me in the head. The thing I can do is use the flat edge of the axe here to apply pressure and control the spear. I can pull on it, push on it, smack it around, but I'm not getting a lot of good strikes in. The spear is a much better weapon at keeping people away from their lines, at keeping the line where it needs to be and keeping control of it. The axe is really good, but when he's not paying attention, maybe he's looking over there. I get a good crack in. I'll break his shield apart. Maybe I take his leg. There's a lot you could do with it. But as a weapon, they were fairly common, but they weren't the weapon you wanted. They weren't the one that you would see on the battlefield. The spear would have been the most common and one of the most effective. I did not set those right. But all right. Go ahead, let's do some stabbing. Who wants to see him break a spear or break a shield with that spear? Is this still usable?
All right. I'll break another one.
Yeah, go for it.
It's the same one.
There you go. One more. Do another. Yes. There we go. For anyone who's interested. And now you see a bit of a problem punching through the shield. This spear is now mine. Or I guess not. But you can see clear through it. I can look at any one of you. And while the spear maybe doesn't have the same power for swinging and breaking and cracking, those single point holes will do a lot of damage. They can get into your armor, they can get under the armor, and a good spear is about 6 to 8 feet long. 6 to 8 feet away getting stabbed is not fun. Trust me, I've been there.
Also, if your spear does break, you lose the tip of it. You haven't lost your weapon. You can still bonk people on the head.
That will hurt. A good long staff is hard to beat. And we put a few holes in this already. It's still holding together pretty well. If Nick wanted to grab one of the smaller axes, swing it around at me, I could still defend myself if I really needed to. Go for it. Oh, but not for long, it seems. That was a lot quicker than I expected to be. There we go.
I'm on fire today.
Well, I'm on fire soon. Oh, yeah. See, a good axe will go through a shield.
But that's also, we haven't lined this with any rawhide or linen or anything.
Do you need help? Apparently not.
This shield, all this is 2 of these glued together, and I put rawhide on the front.
Behind you. There we go. Nick's gonna hit me again. I'll do it a couple times so everyone can see the difference.
This is the difference rawhide can make.
Okay? You did actually crack that.
Oh, did I?
Yup. Okay, so if anyone wants to look, you can see on the back side here
It
where
really wanted to go through.
there's little bits coming off. It wanted to come through, but it didn't. This little bit of rawhide, leather, or you could put linen. We've even done just a couple layers of linen and glue. Will keep the shield together even after taking multiple heavy hits from any kind of weapon, any axe or spear. Now, it wouldn't prevent it from breaking. It would hold it together a lot longer. And long after the battle, you could reuse this. You could hit me all day with this. It'd hold together, mostly. I'd have to twirl it around, use it differently, reposition it, so that the bits that are getting hit are in different parts. But as far as shields go, I'd much rather have a little bit of extra leather or rawhide on it than to just take a piece of wood. But often you didn't have the option. You had whatever was available. So you kept the boss, like this right here. This is just a piece of wood we found laying around. We carved it down, made a handle out of it, slapped a boss on it, and you have a shield. It wouldn't hold together long, but it'd keep you alive a lot longer than getting hit in the head. All right.
Done with planks?
This is the one that
They did it with planks?
he did plank and sheared and fell out.
All right.
What happened now?
This is another.
Oh yeah.
This is another example. We're not going to be hitting this one today. It's too beautiful. But this is more authentically produced than most of the shields you see out here. While these are about as thick as you'd find, between ½ an inch and ¼ inch, sometimes variations would occur within the shield itself. You can see, you can't actually see where the planks are, but this was put together with butted planks, some reinforcement on the back, and of course, the boss on the front. It's got the rawhide that goes around the edges, helps to keep the rest of the shield intact.
This one is also, there have been archaeological finds that some of the shields were thicker on the outside and then beveled out. And so this one is the exact same. It's thinner on the edges than it is on the center to deflect blades and the likes.
All right. So who wants to hit me?
I'm
No. Here, Elena. We're going to demonstrate some chainmail here. Go ahead.
You want to move your sword so I don't get your sword?
You can hit the sword. It's made of metal.
I know. I don't think they're actually asking for
Now that hurts a little. It stings, but I'm alive, and my ribs aren't broken. I was hoping she wouldn't hit me in the sternum, but she did. But
Kind of adds for it.
And that is with minimal padding
yeah,
underneath.
this is minimal padding. This is about as thick as this jacket here, and a little bit of chainmail. Not much else. It's basically wearing a jacket with another jacket over it. But it didn't hurt all that bad. Stung a bit for a second. Maybe got the wind knocked out of me, but none of my ribs are broken. I can still keep fighting. Maybe step back, take a breath, but I'm okay. And I'm gonna keep being okay because I'm wearing chainmail, and it made a huge difference. It's not like in the movies where you stab a guy and it goes through him. It's not happening that way. I mean, he might get knocked down, but he's still gonna be alive. Next turn.
From a little further east, we go to a little place called Birka in Sweden. We have various finds of plates that, when stitched together, thus so, create another type of armor called lamellar. That felt a lot better than that probably felt, and you could probably hit even harder. Honestly, this is all my padding underneath this, and I'm barely feeling it. I know I'm being hit, but the plates align, and it works almost like a breastplate when they stick together like that. There are some weaknesses to it. If it's being stabbed, the tip can get between these plates. A sharp sword could be cutting these little links by the end of the battle. This shirt may be all over the place. So I might want to wear this over top of chainmail if I have the money to do so. If I don't, this is a nice piece of armor that I can throw together out of scrap metal I find at the blacksmith. Or I could even have this commissioned specifically for me. We're not entirely sure how prevalent this armor was, but we do have some evidence for it.
All right. We're going to talk about the swords and smaller weapons, be it like hand axes and the swords you see. Elena's holding something a little more common to the Viking age. Something like this. You can swing it around. Okay. This is a Frankish design originally. It's very popular in the Viking age. They're real simple. The double-edged sword, good for stabbing, good for smacking. Not exactly the sharpest or most efficient tool, but it did the job. It held together pretty well. You can swing it around, and when it breaks, or when it eventually breaks, because after repeated battles it will, you cut it off, you make a say-axe out of it, you got a shorter blade. The handle is fairly simple as well. Just a piece of metal, wood, wrapped with leather. weight on the end to help balance it, and a tiny, tiny little handguard that thankfully gets improved as the ages go on. These hand axes here are a little more common. You'd have seen something like this on the battlefield. You'd also see it being used around the camp. You can chop wood with it. We've got a couple back at our house that we use when we're chopping wood. They chop just fine. They chop people, they chop wood, they'll chop anything. Go through that shield, it'll just as easy, it'll go through a log. You'd have seen it being used on the camp. You can even whittle with them. You can shave things down. You could carve just about anything you can carve with. You could probably carve a shaft like this with one. It'd take you a while, but it's been done. But they were the most popular weapon on the battlefield. They're simple, effective, easy to replace, and if the shaft breaks, you just pull the head off, you put a new one on, you got a new weapon. Now this is a shushka, but it's prevalent. It is a later period version of a Hunnish saber. The sabers were a little less common, but you did see them in the Viking Age. They were mostly Eastern, and they came across with the Huns and with other Eastern groups and people. You don't see them as popularly represented in TV and things like that, but they were fairly prevalent. They were you could see them in multiple sources and across multiple years, and they even talk about them here and there.
They would have been most prevalent along the Dnieper, between the Black Sea and the Baltic Sea.
Now, the saber itself is a very different weapon. It's much faster and lighter. It wouldn't have had the stopping power of one of the heavier Frankish swords. If Nick wants to show you, yeah. Go ahead, swing it. Okay, down, down, up, 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 down, up, up, down, up. See? Eventually, that's just got so much more force, I'm gonna drop this, but this is much faster. Down. Again. Didn't even try that time. It isn't double-edged, but it has what's known as a spear point, which means the last few inches of the blade here are sharpened to a point. We're thrusting or cutting on the back side. So you can flip it around, cut this way, you can thrust with it. The intention was that it was a faster sword to draw. Nick would like to put his sword on and demonstrate. Probably should have done that bit first, but well. So, when you're ready, who wants to give us a countdown? All right, go for it.
3, 2, 1.
The advantage here is this little hook at the end. I don't have to grip and pull. I just smack my hand against it and it pulls out. Don't even need my fingers. In fact, with a blade like this, I only need my thumb mostly to control it. It gets pushed against the edge here, and the last 3 fingers here are for control. This one is for guiding and preventing it from going anywhere I don't want it to. Grip, so these 3 are for grip. This one is for control, correction. This thumb is here to keep it braced and coming from inside or outside. Makes it fast, makes it good for drawing quickly. It would have been used mostly as a sidearm when you dropped a weapon, lost a spear, lost an axe, or when your shield broke, or in the event that you just happen to lose all of your weapons, you could pull it quickly, or if someone just came upon you, because occasionally you have a spear. If you'd like to rush me with something, well, you put it down. Why did you put it down? Who told you to do that? This is a battlefield. All right, so you have a spear, right? And I go to thrust, and push it at the side, he comes in. Well, now I'm in trouble. Now I pull the sword, but he's too close already because he's got an axe, and that would have been a much better choice. But the idea is simple. If he pushes, Elena, come here. I need you to help demonstrate. Elena is going to be here to help me. No, over here.
You're on his side.
You're on our side. No. You're going to keep him from killing me while I draw my sword. So he's going to rush. He's going to jump. I'm going to drop this.
I could split his
You could. But the point is simple. I could drop the spear, and if there were 2 of them, and I had another person helping them, I could drop the spear, pull my sword, much faster than it would if I wanted to try and defend myself with the spear.
And shields. Shields were still here.
Shields are still around.
Considering you'd probably be on a battlefield, you could just pick up whatever. So shields are.
A quick point about the shields.
Go for it.
So the most common measurement you see listed when it talks about how big the shield is it should cover somebody from their neck to their knee. So if you're taking an appropriate stance, it should be covering from about your neck to your knee. It's slightly smaller shield, slightly smaller warrior. So you see a lot in movies, the shield wall.
Yeah. Keep talking about the shield wall.
You see a lot in movies, the shield wall. Sometimes you see it done like this. They're overlapping. We've made some sort of wall structure here that's very hard to get around, but it's also not very mobile. A lot of times you'll see this the turtle, where the first line will make a shield wall, and then the second line will make another shield wall over top. And this is not very useful. I'm not doing anything back there. I'm just holding the shield over her head. She's got a helmet. Her helmet's doing better than my shield. What we think was a more accurate depiction of a shield wall is more of what people would consider a shield screen. We have room to fight and support each other. We're not locking shields because if we need to move and be mobile, I don't want to get in the way of her swinging her sword, and she doesn't want to get in the way of me swinging this axe.
Yeah, pull 'em. All right.
Under attack again.
Yeah. We're going to talk about some other things. A little bit more control on the battlefield. We talked about the axe earlier. Its ability to power through, break things, crush, and trip. Another thing you can do with it is pull. And while that's not very useful to me, it might be useful to spear someone next to me. Pull. Or if I had a spearman, someone wants to pick up a spear, yeah, just stab him. All you gotta do is stab him. He has a spear, all I have to do is pull, steps in, quick, easy kill. The axe doesn't have to be used for breaking things, although it is much more fun that way. But you can pull under, pull from above, you can steal back. It's mine now. And, well, now he's defenseless, really. Or I guess offensiveless. But still, a good hook on an axe is very popular, and in later periods you see the hook becoming more prevalent. You see bill hooks with the English, you see halberds and stuff with spikes, and little, you see the boar spears with those little edges on them.
Yeah, where the shield's the only thing somebody could hook with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, over here. Hook around the shoulder, you can pull him into the formation. You can hook around the neck, but I'm not going to do it because he's not wearing safety equipment.
Thank you.
You can pull around the ankles, heels, behind the knees. You can even pull on the arms if you get him in a weird position. You want to stick your arm out? They'll pull him right down.
Yeah. And in a formation where I might have a dozen or more people around me protecting me, if I'm suddenly out of position, if I get my ankle hooked or something, I'm out of position now. That means people with spears to my right and to my left can suddenly stab me in my sides. Because when you're on a shield wall, you're not stabbing at the person directly in front of you. What you want to do is you're stabbing at the person who's not paying attention to you. If you can, you're not even stabbing across your body, you're stabbing at somebody to your right. As I'm extending my arm out, I'm still able to maintain protection over the rest of my hand. It's hard to demonstrate with only 3 people, but it does make a difference. If I'm stabbing to my left, I'm coming across my shield, which means as I'm stabbing at that person, my arm's exposed to whatever. If I'm stabbing at somebody over here, my shield is still in place.
Talk about some other facets of the spear that you don't see very often, that it is in fact a big long staff. Nick, you want to drop this?
Oh, that works.
Yeah.
Nice. Facing the wrong direction, but whatever, man, aesthetic. So the spear is very good for fencing. You quick, small movements. You could try and swing it around, but you leave yourself open. Those movements are large and you just get stabbed. Other things you could do with it, you push, I'm gonna close, grapple with it. You can also come up over, I'm gonna come over your shoulder. No, over your shoulder. Over your shoulder. I'm gonna come over your shoulder. Well, because you're not listening. And you don't get listened, you get stabbed in the head. So, you can come up and over the shoulder here, and you can grapple. You can push, pull, you can push on it, push down. A lot of the movements are pushing and pulling motions. So when I'm pushing on him, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to maintain contact with some part of his body. Push down, I push in, and as long as I don't break contact, he's gonna find it very hard to hit me. Try and hit me. Go for it. Go for it. Hit me. What are you doing? And, you know, and while eventually he might find something, in the meantime, there's other people on the battlefield, he's getting stabbed. And that's the core point of the shield, the spear, sorry. The spear is for control. It's an excellent weapon for keeping someone where you want them and where you need them, keeping someone at a distance. Because at this distance, his shield, his people with the shields and swords and the hand axes, and even the longer axes, they're not getting in close, they're not doing any damage, they're not hitting me. The spears can fence out here. It's only when you move in that those things become threats. But you don't want that, because you'll get stabbed first. You never want to be the first guy to charge. You want to be the last one. Pardon me while I fix that. I needed to protect my shins. Protective equipment is important. These are made of metal. They do hurt.
Yeah. Notice his protective equipment on his right hand. Don't be joking.
Notice the protective equipment on none of his body. He's not wearing a helmet. He's not wearing gloves. He likes to make jokes. He's gonna get stabbed. Get a hand cut off. Get a hand cut off. Get a hand cut off. Get stabbed. Now, protective equipment was important on the battlefield. I am going to take this helmet off, because I'm getting sweat in my eye. I can't see. But, excuse me. But it was also very important to be able to see and see what you're doing. And often, in a few cases, they would take their armor, they take bits of their armor off. In a lot of instances, when it was too hot or when the terrain was too soft. You get a nice muddy battlefield, you do not want to be wearing all this armor. If it's a hot, sweltering, sweaty day, you do not want a helmet on. You're gonna pass out, you're gonna get a lot of heat injuries, and occasionally, we believe that's where a lot of injuries came from. A lot of people didn't just die on the battlefield for being stabbed immediately. Quite a few of them probably died from heat injuries or just slipping and tripping. We found plenty of people just stuck in bogs. Had a bad trip, stayed there for the rest of eternity.
Don't recommend it. Bad reviews. Speaking of helmets and armor, there's actually a lot more variation during this age if you look outside of Scandinavia. You have this find from Nesdovo. Most of what's left of the original find encompasses around the face. The rest of here rotted away at some point. But so this is a speculative reconstruction of a helmet find from Nesdovo. I see a couple of gentlemen here wearing the monocled Gemütbuch helm, or a reasonable facsimile of it. We do. Lifted in the car. Yeah, of course.
Real quick concern, just to let you know, Stephen Huff will be out here in a couple minutes to do his demonstration.
Okay, yeah, we should be wrapping up soon.
All right, cool. Thank you.
So we also have the fairly typical nasal helm that you see in the Bayeux Tapestry and on a lot of different reliefs, carvings, and archaeological finds. But that was our 5-minute warning. So it's been a pleasure to perform for all of you. I hope you learned something.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
If you have any questions, we'll be around. We're fairly easy to identify. I'm this guy. That's Nick. Elena, one of us will be able to answer your questions. We're hoping to do some more fighting, and we'll see if we. But if you would like to see anything about what we do, if you want to take a look at the shields or take a look at the weapons, we'll be around here somewhere. We'll find a place to kind of stick them off to the side, and we'll let you come up and take a look at it.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much.